Hello everyone, welcome to AptiPlace Academy for Civil Services. I hope all of you are doing well, preparing well for the upcoming Civil Services examination. This is a video session on the static portion of the subject that is very important for your Civil Services examination. In today's session, I'll be discussing a topic from Indian polity, that is the directive principle of state policy. As the prelims examination is around the corner, it is very important for you to get a grasp on some of the important topic from which UPSC tend to ask questions every year. If not every year, every alternate year from these important topics, the question are asked. So the purpose and the rationale behind that video session is to give you the complete idea about the specific topic relevant for both prelims and mains examination. Specifically, the focus will be on the prelims examination. So DPSP is something very important topic from the examination perspective. Either it is a civil services examination or a state public service commission examination. The understanding of DPSP is inevitable. So we'll understand in detail, and this particular session will also help all the aspirants who have already completed their chapter on DPSP. This will give you a quick idea, and this video will also act as a revision video for all the aspirants who will be appearing for the civil services examination scheduled at 26th of May. Right? So let's understand what are the important things that you need to know. I'll be covering some of the important aspects under the DPSP, which is even not covered under the M. Lakshmikant book. So this session is going to be helpful for all the aspirants. So stay tuned at the end of this session, where I'll be coming up with some MCQs question that was already asked in the examination. So let's get started. So first and foremost, a brief introductions about the DPSP, that is the Directive Principle of State Policy. This was actually explained in the part 4 of the Indian Constitution under Article 36 to 51. So first thing first that you need to know, this is specifically mentioned in the part 4 of the Indian Constitution under Article 36 to 51. I'll be giving you the complete details about each and every article in the later session. But let's understand some of the basic first. The origin of the DPSP can be traced back to the Karachi resolutions and the socialist and national idea, which was encapsulated during 1920. Now, these are some of the historical background, which is important because what has happened in the recent examination, specifically in prelims examination, UPSC has strengthened the part of the pattern of the changes that is being asked specifically in the prelims examination, right? They're not asking the straightforward question, so you need to be aware of some of the historical background and some basic details which is even not there in the standard textbook. The idea of the DPSP, that is the Directive Principle of State Policy, was taken from the Irish Republic. Easy one, I think most of you must be aware of this, but do not get confused. This is Irish Republic. The principle and the directive of the state making laws, policies for collective goods for the people. So the main idea behind the DPSP and the formulations of the DPSP was actually to ensure that the states are making best possible endeavor and efforts in ensuring that laws and policies are made collectively for the welfare of the people, and a concept of welfare state is something which is taken into considerations, right? Now, other thing that is important for your examination, specifically for prelims, and some question has already been asked from this section. So I'll come to the thing, the basics thing first. The Constituent Assembly played a decisive role in framing the directive principle of state policy. And which are the individual who has made a substantial contribution? First is B.N. Rao. These names are important. There can be a direct question asking you about the personality involved in the formulation of the DPSP. Then we have A.K. Iyer, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and K.T. Shah. So these were the individual actually made a proactive role in the formulations of DPSP. Now, these are the two important points. You might not find this in textbooks, and UPSC has already asked question in the prelims examination. So DPSP has been considered as a noble feature and the soul of the constitution by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So this is the one important fact. If you don't know, please make a note of this. And DPSP is considered as a concise of constitution by G. Austin. So these are the two important facts that you need to know, pretty relevant for even one day examination. Now, moving ahead with the objective, what is the objective of DPSP? See, here the session can go a bit elaborative, but I have confined myself to a specific objective which is relevant from the examination perspective. So, DPSP guarantees social and economic democracy that tries to establish a welfare state. So, the whole sole idea behind the DPSP is to come up with the part of, right? So, to come up with the part of welfare state. So, this is the main rationale, and the state should keep in mind that the formulation of policies and enacting the law, they should bear this in mind that the welfare, the part of economic development, the overall prosperity must be taken into consideration. The aim is to promote the economic justice and prevent the welfare concentration. So this can also be a possible statement for prelims examination, that what are the main idea, what are the objective of the DPSP, and what it actually try to bring out for a state. DPSP is serving as a non-binding guideline for both center and the state government. It is a non-binding, even it is non-justiciable in nature, like the fundamental right which is justiciable in nature. The part of DPSP is not justiciable. It is even non-binding guideline for the state and the government. They need to have to adhere to this, but this is not legally binding as such, right? The directive principle of state policies aims to ensure the socio-economic justice, where the people will look for the part of betterment, and even the state government which is coming up with the policy should ensure that the welfare state must be taken into consideration with the whole soul policy formulation, considering the each one every starter of our society. The aim of the part of DPSP was actually taken from the fact that justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. You can have a mnemonics of this. This can goes up like something like JLEF, right? So JLEF, which was actually envisaged in the preamble of the Indian Constitution, does it embody the concept of welfare state. So these are the very crisp objective of the DPSP, and even it will help you in the mains examination writing the basic details or introductory part of the DPSP. You can utilize this basic point as the introductions. Now, moving ahead with the classifications of directive principle of state policy, there are three major categories which are considered. The first is the part of socialistic principle, then we have Gandhian principle, and the third, that is liberal, intellectual, and principle. In some textbook, you might find four categories, but as far as civil services examination is concerned, we are concentrating it into the three categories. Now, these are the list of the article which I have mentioned precisely. I'll be giving you the detail of each and every article. Now, the purpose behind this representation so that you can have a screenshot and you can revise this. Many a time some article is mentioned in the examination and you are not able to recall that which particular article goes for which particular type. So you can easily recall via this. I'll give you the precise detail about each and every article one by one. Let's start with the socialist principle, that is article 39. 30 will precise with 36. So 36 call for the definition of a state, right? Then 37, that is the application of the principle contained in this part. Now the main thing start from article 30 itself, and 38 article was actually incorporated under 44 Amendment Act. I have also mentioned Amendment Act so that it become easy for you to revise. You can take this screenshot for better revision purposes. This is you have to specifically look into the part of amendment, then read into the article. This become a cumbersome process for the aspirant. So to make things more easy for you, I have added the amendment part here itself. So 38 article was incorporated with 48 Amendment Act, which called to have state to secure the social order and even promote the welfare of the people. Then we have article 39, which was added by 42nd Amendment Act, which call for certain principle for policy to be followed by every state. Then we have Article 39A, which was added by 42nd Amendment Act, which called for the equal justice and free legal aid, something very, very important for an individual. We have seen the Supreme Court has been always pitching for the part of this thing, right? Article 40, that called for organization of village panchayat. Article 41, that called for right to work, to educations, and to have a public assistant in certain cases. Then goes Article 42, which call for the provisions for just human conditions and even working for the maternity benefit. In the recent time, government has made changes to the Maternity Benefit Act, where the total duration has been increased by the central government to 26 weeks, right? Then we have Article 43, which call for living wages for the worker. There have been questions in the living wages and the part of the minimum wages. Make sure you are aware of the basic definition of it. Then we have Article 43A, which call for participations of worker in the management of industries, and this was incorporated by 42nd Amendment Act. Then we have 43B, which was actually incorporated by 97 Amendment Act for the promotion of cooperative society. Now the rest article, which is again important and specifically the part of directive principle of state policies, are Article 44, which call for uniform civil code. Even if you have recently come across the news, government has come up with the CA and other part of the uniform civil code. So this is something which was there in the part, but this is again a debatable issue. I will not elaborate on that part. Article 44, which was actually incorporated under 86 Amendment Act, called for the promotion of early childhood care and educations to child below the age of 16, which even called for the part of 21A, where right to education, right to education was actually part of it. 46th article, promotion for the education and economic interest of the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe and other weaker section of the society. Then we have Article 47, which call for duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition, standard of living and even improve the part of public health. And you can also link with the Sustainable Development Goal Article 1, where it is specifically talked about the part of standard of living and even reducing the part of disparity among the members, right? Article 48, which call for the organization of agriculture and animal husbandry. Then we have Article 48A, which was actually incorporated under 42nd Amendment Act, called for the protections and improvement of environment and safeguard of the forest wildlife. Article 49, called for the protection of monuments and places and object of the national importance. This is again something very, very important. Article 50, which called for the separations of judiciary from the executive. So you can have a easy way to recall 50-50, right? 50 something, which is there. Equal participation has been given for judiciary and executive. And last but not least is the 51, which called for the promotion of international peace and security. So these are the all article that is there under the directive principle of state policies. Now moving ahead with the utility of the directive principle of state policy. This is important for your general standing, and even it can be relevant for mains examination where the question is asked with regard to DPSP. You can have an elaborative part via this understanding. So utility की अगर बात करें, first it call for the framework for state action, जहाँ पे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने फार रीचिंग फ्रेमवर्क की बात की है, जहाँ पे एक्शंस लिए जा सकते हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ लेजिस्लेटिव एंड एग्जीक्यूटिव अंडरटेकन बाय द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट. देन इंस्ट्रूमेंट ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन, दिस इज अगेन समथिंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ये जनरली अथॉरिटीज को यूनियन, खास करके जो इंडियन यूनियन है, दे रिमाइंड देम दैट द एम इज टू बिल्ड द सोशियो इकोनॉमिक ऑर्डर. It aids the judiciary. The overall judiciary is being determined in the constitutional validity of a law. Stability and consistency in the policies. Whatever policy that government of India is coming up, not precisely the government of India, even for the state government, they take things into consideration where the political, economic and social sphere is taken into consideration. हेल्प द मेजरमेंट फॉर द गवर्नमेंट परफॉर्मेंस, किस तरह से गवर्नमेंट किस पैरामीटर्स पे काम कर रही है, कितनी सोशियो इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट की इंक्लिनेशंस है, ओवरऑल कितनी डेवलपमेंट हुई है, जो सोशल स्टेट ऑफ सोसाइटी उनको कितनी बेनिफिट मिली है, ये सारी मेजरमेंट भी की जा सकती है. एंड इवन इट हेल्प टू रियलाइज द सोशियो इकोनॉमिक डेमोक्रेसी बाय स्ट्राइविंग एंड एस्टैब्लिशिंग द सोशियो इकोनॉमिक डेमोक्रेसी principle for conducting the environment and even the fundamental right which is fully and properly enjoyed by the citizen of this country. Now moving ahead, there are certain limitations to the directive principle of state policies. Definitely there's some bottlenecks and limitations to DPSP. First, it is not legally enforceable. What does this mean? That it is a non-justiciable in nature. As I've stated earlier, that fundamental rights are justiciable in nature. I'll give you a comparison between the DPSP and fundamental right at the end of the session, but just understand what are the limitations. So this is non-justiciable in nature and they are not legally enforced by the court in their violation. So no individual can move to any court stating that the DPSP has been violated, right? The constitutional conflict is there that DPSP leads to constitutional conflict between the center and the state, then the center and the president and the chief minister and the government. This is the other shortcoming or limitations of the DPSP. Conflict with the fundamental rights, had that they can be amended to implement the fundamental right. And last but not the least is the constitutional validity. A law cannot be struck down by the court with a violation of the DPSP, right? If it is a case for fundamental right, the Supreme Court has the authority to strike down any of the laws. Even if you look at the part for the recent the bond that was there, the electoral bond, अगर EBS की बात करें, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने आर्टिकल 14 की बात कही थी और बहुत सारे इंपॉर्टेंट बातों को हाईलाइट की गई थी और उस चीज़ को ध्यान में रखते हुए उस पर्टिकुलर बॉन्ड को अनकॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बताया गया और उसे स्ट्राइक डाउन की गई है. So this is the precise thin line difference that you need to understand between the DPSP and the fundamental right. Now, this is something very important for you, and it is inevitable for all the aspirant to understand the basic difference about the fundamental rights and DPSP. For better revision purposes, you can either take the screenshot as well. So they are negative, and fundamental right की अगर बात करें, they are negative as they prohibit state from doing certain things. अगर DPSP की बात करें, directive principle की, they are positive in nature and state certain things from, they promote the state to do things in a better manner. दे आर जस्टिएबल इन नेचर. फंडामेंटल राइट जो है वो जस्टिएबल है और जो DPSP है वो नॉन जस्टिएबल है. इसकी इन्फोर्स नहीं की जा सकती है, कोर्ट में मूव नहीं किया जा सकता है. बगैर अगर आपकी फंडामेंटल राइट वॉयलेट हो रही है, यू कैन मूव टू द कोर्ट. Now, the fundamental right aims to establish the political democracy in the country, guaranteeing the equality, liberty, religious freedom, and cultural right. And even the part of DPSP aims to establish socio-economic democracy in the country. Now, fundamental right have a legal sanction, but where it is like DPSP, they have more in political sanction. Now, this is again an important point. Make sure you take a note of this. The fundamental rights promote the welfare of an individual, hence they are personal and individualistic, whereas the DPSP promotes the welfare of the community, hence it is the part of socialistic in nature. Now, the second last point is they do not require any legislation for their implementation and they are automatically enforced. But when it comes to the DPSP, they require legislation and they cannot be automatically enforced. And the last point, that the court are bound to declare the law in terms of if any violation is there with regards to the fundamental right, it will be treated as an invalid and even unconstitutional in nature. The example can be electoral bonds. There are n number of examples, but just the recent example can be electoral bonds. Now they cannot be declared as inviolative because the directive principle of state policy cannot be taken into unconstitutional or invalid. However, they can be upheld with the law on the ground that they were enacted to give effect with certain directives either by the state government or by the union government. Now moving ahead with some PYQ questions, which is something that you should know as an aspirant, because कई बार आप टॉपिक पढ़ते हैं, आपको पता होना चाहिए किस पैरामीटर्स पे, किस डेप्थ पे क्वेश्चंस पूछे जा रहे हैं. So let's see some questions and you have to answer the question in the comment section down below. So the first question is with reference to the provisions contained in the part 4 of the Constitution, which of the following are mentioned, right? The things that is mentioned, they are enforceable by court. They can be enforceable by any court. The principle laid down in this part are to influence making the law by the state. So what you have to do, you have to choose the correct option A, B, C or D. If you have not practiced PYQ, make sure to practice it. Do not go by recent trend. See, recently the pattern has changed, but you have to also look into the other PYs. तो इसके आपको जो answers हैं वो comment section में बताने हैं. Make sure many of you participate. It will also have a revision for your general understanding. Whatever you have read, this will give you a precise idea on the clarity of topic that you have completed. So do write the answer in the comment section down below. Now for second question, that is, other than the fundamental right, which of the following part of the Constitution of India reflect the principle and the provisions of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? Now something again very important. This is preamble, directive principle of state policy or the fundamental duties. So just you have to choose the correct option, use your logical reasoning to come up with the conclusion and drop your answer in the comment section down below. Now the third question, this is the last question of the discussion, that which part of the Constitution declare the idea of welfare state? This was already mentioned. I have, the complete discussion goes on. This question will be a cakewalk for all of you. The directive principle of state policies, fundamental right, preamble or the seventh schedule. So very, very important. Make sure have a participations and all of you write question number followed by your correct option, like question number 1, question number 2 or the question number 3. You can accordingly make your answer. I think all 3 questions many of you will be able to answer that. So this was all about for this session. We'll meet in another session with some of the static topic relevant for the upcoming prelims examination. And before I conclude, I wanted to tell you about the prelims mirror. This is the test which is scheduled for tomorrow, that is 17th of March. This is GS paper 2. Very, very important. We have come up with a very good quality of questions for you, which will be actually simulating you for the real examination. If you have not registered yourself, do check it out. You can use this scanner code, the scanner, the part of the registration, and even you will find a link in the description section down below to register for this course. Do not miss this opportunity. It is very, very important to check your potential and understand where you are lacking, right? So this was all about for this session. We'll meet in the next session. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying tuned.